What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for some more content. What we're going to be doing today is delving deep into the stats we're going to be comparing 22-23 season to 23-24, see what impact Ange Postecoglou and his tactics have had on basically each and every metric possible. We're going to be looking at the shooting, the passing, the possession, the defence, and also seeing where we rank in those particular stats in the Premier League. So take it away, Sim.
Yeah, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at where we ranked last season in the Premier League 1 to 20 in these certain stats, and we're going to be comparing it to where Ange Postecoglou has gotten this season. Obviously, we did look at the stats throughout the season, but now the season's over, it's good to get a whole overall picture over where we are in certain stats in terms of the Premier League, where we are compared to last season, and maybe what we need to improve on. So looking forward to this comparison. I think it does tell quite an interesting story. We're first going to look at the obviously the shooting stats, how many goals, shots we take, all this kind of stuff. You can see here, last season we actually finished 5th for goals scored, and this season, despite scoring more goals, we're actually 2 places lower in 7th for goals scored. If you look at the XG, it's fairly similar. Last season 7th, this season 6th. Non-penalty XG, though, a bit better because we didn't get too many penalties this season compared to last season. What's quite interesting is this one, non-penalty XG per shot. So last season we were 16th. That means that the XG per shot was really, really low. We weren't creating very good chances per shot. This season we're 2nd for non-penalty XG per shot. So each shot is creating quite a high chance of scoring. Total shots 7th last season, 4th this season. Shots on target 6th last season, 4th this season. Shot creating actions 7th last season, 4th this season. And shots on target percentage 2nd last season, 7th this season. Maybe because that's Harry Kane's influence, I would assume, from last season. So I think when it comes to the shooting metrics, obviously there's been an improvement in the level of chances we're creating, the amount of chances we're creating. But interestingly enough, I think it tells a story of the Premier League this season, that even though we scored more goals, and in fact we scored the 2nd most goals we've ever scored in Premier League history in a season, we're actually 7th for goals scored. And I think that tells a story of how open the Premier League was this season. Yeah,
absolutely. You just got to look at some of the teams, all the teams that finished above us, they scored monstrous amount of goals. You look at Man City and Arsenal, they were probably scored like 15 or more goals than us this season, which is crazy to think about. Also, the lack of penalties. Spurs, was it only 1 penalty Spurs had this season? Was it 2? Which is actually mad. It's mad to go through a whole season and only get 2 penalties. When you look at Arsenal, they got like 10 penalties or something, and other teams as well. But I think it's a positive in terms of all these metrics that you've given us. We've progressed in terms of chance creation. We've progressed in terms of goals scored. We've progressed pretty much in every metric. It's just like, it's hard to quantify that a little bit when you're looking at position in the league, where I'd like to look at like individual stats in terms of actual numbers as well. But when you're looking at quantifying it in terms of where we finished in the league, it's hard because the league has obviously progressed in a different way this season.
Yeah, but I think when you look at the stats in terms of the level of chances, it kind of makes sense where we are. 4th, 5th, around there. That's what we've been challenging all season. And that's what that kind of represents, apart from obviously goals scored. So, but what's kind of interesting, having scored so many goals, and I think that is why, even though we have scored the 2nd amount of goals in our Premier League history, that is why Ange is still so focused on we need to improve the attack, because he knows the levels have gone up so much that even though we've scored more goals than last season, that's still not enough to keep pace with a lot of the other teams.
And this probably tells you why a lot of people are quite angered or upset about the signing of Timo Werner, because he's got poor finishing in front of goal, and next season we need to take all these stats up to the next level.
Yeah, definitely. I guess we'll look at passing stats next. So these are the kind of how our passing has improved from last season. I think that was definitely something people were frustrated about last season. Didn't keep possession enough. So you can see here passes. Last season we were 7th for the amount of passes. Now we're 3rd. Progressive passes we were 8th. Now we're 2nd in the league. Key passes, so that's basically chances created. 7th last season, 4th this season. Passes in the final third, we were 11th last season. Now we're 3rd. That's a massive jump. Passes into the penalty area, we were 8th last season, now we're 4th. Progressive passes received, we were 8th last season, now we're top. Through balls, 8th last season, 4th, and crosses last season 6th, this season 5th, so not too much of a difference there. But you can see what a difference we're making in terms of the amount of passes we're making into the final third. The possession was the kind of threatening kind of pass as well. Forward passes, we're making a lot more forward passes and passes into threatening areas as well. And I think that metric there, passes in the final third, we were very frustrated last season, sitting low block a lot of the time, trying to play counter attack and only really hurting the opposition in transition. Now it's like we're a completely different team when it comes to this, and I think that just goes to show how much work Ange Postecoglou has done with the team. And yes, we're not perfect yet, but you can see by these metrics, even though we're a work in progress, the progress is there for everyone to see.
Absolutely. And, like you say, it does, very much show from these stats the different style of play, where Antonio Conte are very much a counter-attacking team. Now we are a much more possession-focused based team, build up from the back with a lot of passing. And I actually would think, I think when we did this video last, halfway through the season, weren't we first in a lot of these metrics? So I think
dropped off a bit,
so second half of the season was a clear drop off from the eye, and it's a clear drop off from the stats. But even with that drop off, we're still very high up in the league, which is a very positive thing, because in terms of results from January till the end of the season, I think we're 14th or 15th in terms of the table, in terms of results, weren't we?
I'm not 100% sure.
But we're around that. I think between 10th and 15th. I can't remember the exact number. But to have these stats from start to the end of the season and be basically in the top 4 for all of them, I think is very impressive.
And I think that definitely gives you building blocks for next season. And I know we were frustrated how the season ended, but if you're taking that progress as a whole, definitely we're going in the right direction. And if we clearly can fine-tune some of the missing pieces, I think we're onto a very good thing. If we're looking at possession stats, these are very interesting as well. Last season we were 8th for average possession. Now we're 2nd, so we're 2nd in the whole league. 8th for touches in the penalty area. Now we're 4th. This one's quite interesting. Take-ons completed last season 13th, this season 5th. So he's asking the players to commit more risk and take people on a lot more. Progressive carries, 8th last season, 2nd this season. Carries into the penalty area, 9th last season, 2nd this season. And fouls won in total. Last season, 17th. This season's 1st.
It's mad, though. We're 1st in fouls won. And James Maddison, I think, has drawn one of the most fouls this season, if not the most. And
he's actually drawn more than Saka, even though he missed 3 months.
Yeah, which is mad to think about. And we've picked up 2 penalties across the whole season, and we're 1st in fouls won.
And also,
is that not mad?
Not only 1st in fouls won, but we're near the top for touches in the penalty area as well. So we're touching the ball in the penalty area more than most. We're getting fouled more than most. So we've only had 2 penalties.
It's just mad. So it's mad.
I don't know if it's crazy luck or what. I don't know what it is, or we're just getting very.
And you could say the ref doesn't point to the spot but. This metric is on literal fouls won, so most of these fouls that we're winning, bar 2 of them, are outside the penalty area.
Which is crazy. It's just a statistical anomaly, I think they call it. But
in terms of the take-ons completed, yes, we are 5th in the league, and that's impressive in the first season under Ange. But Ange will want to get that much higher next season when hopefully we bring in players that, particularly wingers, that can really take on their fullbacks. I don't think we've really had that this season.
Yeah, I think that's true. But you can see here, and I think the metric fouls one actually definitely basically symbolises the difference in how Ange wants his players to be in possession. And then you can see here we're very much last season middle of the road, and all these kind of stats where you're talking about carries, which is basically players taking risk on the ball, players looking at space and attacking space. Last season we weren't very good at doing it. We didn't want to do it, essentially, and that's also why we probably didn't win so many fouls, because we were very safe. We only really hit teams when we wanted to on the counter attack. This season it's a lot more when we do find opportunities, find as many opportunities as you can to burst into that space, and don't wait for anyone. Have confidence in yourself, have bravery, and go for it. That's why we've won so many fouls, and that's why we're currently, 2nd and near the top of the table for the amount of carries we do make. So I think these are all great, and obviously having more touches in the penalty area is going to get you closer to goal and create more chances, which is a lot better for us as well. So these are all very, very encouraging changes. And if we're ranking like this in the underlying stats, you get the feeling that we've got. You can see there the building blocks Ange is going for, and that's where you want to rank in these kind of stats. You want to rank really high. So when we get a bit better quality, you add better quality into the team on top of these underlying stats, it's going to really, hopefully, explode.
Yeah, totally. And I think that it doesn't really surprise me when you look at these possession stats from last season to this year, because like I said, last year, very much a counter-attacking team under Antonio Conte. After Conte left, it was a bit of a mishmash of what we were trying to do. Stellini came in, Mason came in. We didn't really know who we are. But now it seems as though we have a direct style of play. We like to keep the ball. We like to progress the ball up the pitch. And I think all these stats and underlying metrics are definitely backing all of that up.
Yeah, definitely. And so in possession, I think from what we can see here, especially with our attacking ability, we're basically like a new team going forward. And that's exactly what Ange wants us to be. But now we're going to get into kind of our defensive metrics, how we've been off the ball, how many chances we concede. And obviously, I think we did concede less goals than last season. But let's see what the underlying stats show for last season. So here are some defensive stats, a lot to get through here. So the keeper post-shot XG, which is basically how many shots how many goals they've prevented essentially from their saves. Last season, obviously, Lloris had a bit of a stinker, 16th. This season, Vicario much better, up in 6th. This one's quite interesting. Keeper actions outside the penalty area, so the sweeping actions essentially from the goalkeeper outside the box. Last season, we ranked 11th. This season, we're top. So Vicario is the best keeper, or he does it the most in the Premier League.
Where would we be without that Chelsea game in this?
Good question. That Chelsea game probably makes up for quite a lot of it, but we rank first for keeper actions outside the box. Tackles won. This is quite interesting. 13th last season. We're very standoffish. Second this season. So we very much like to get stuck in.
Very aggressive.
Tackles in defensive third. Last season 10th. This season 9th. So not a lot of difference there. But tackles won in the middle third. Last season 17th. This season 4th. So we're getting very combative in the middle of the park. Tackles in the attacking third. Last season 14th. This season top. We're top of the league this season for tackles won in the attacking third. So that shows the different kind of approach off the ball defensively. Dribblers tackled last season 14th, this season 1st. So, I mean, that probably goes because we're getting dribbled at a lot, because we're getting hit on transition a lot, but we do make a lot more tackles. Interceptions, 13th last season, 6th this season. Shots on target against. So this on these metrics, the lower the better in terms of the other ones. Last season 9th, this season 13th. So not still middle of the road, but better than last season. XG against last season 16th, this season 7th. So actually we conceded more XG this season than last season. So the quality of chances we conceded were better. Last season for goals conceded, we were 6th. This season 12th. So even though we conceded a lot of goals, and we conceded a lot less. A lot less per the Premier League. It still ranks about 12th. So we're still kind of the 8 teams who conceded more than us, about 8, like in that sense.
Yeah. So obviously, what this tells me is that because of our style of play, we are obviously very aggressive in the final third and in the middle third as well. However, but because of our style of play, teams are able to spring on us and attack against us a lot more. So that is why you're seeing these kind of numbers where we're very aggressive in the middle third. However, teams are allowed to get more shots, score more goals, and get more XG against us.
Yeah. So I think, but that's definitely true. And I think the fact that we've got these numbers improved plus the attacking numbers, I think they go hand in hand for sure. Obviously, the keeper ones are very good. But it just goes to implement, again, a very different approach off the ball, how we're a lot more aggressive. But I think not only are we aggressive, but it's actually working, because we are winning more tackles in the attacking third, a lot more tackles. We are winning more tackles in the defensive third. And although we've conceded a lot more XG, when it comes to conceded per the league, we were 6th last season. So what does that mean? We had the 6th best defence last season. Now we have the 12th best defence. So defensive numbers are not as good. I'm trying to make sure if that's right, but I think that is right. So we have conceded basically, compared to the rest of the league, more chances. So that definitely needs to be improved, and that shows how much improvement we've got to do in that facet. But Ange will be encouraged that we are pressing a lot better, we are pressing a lot more, and we're catching a lot of teams out, and that's only going to lead to more chances created.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look at what the actual stats was. So this year, I can't see the actual conceded numbers, but we had a 13 goal difference this year, and we had a 7 goal difference last year. So obviously we scored a lot less goals last year.
Yeah.
But what was the actual number of goals conceded last season?
So goals conceded last season, I'm trying to get up.
Goals against this
63.
season was, and this season was 61.
So we were sorry, right. So we were the 6th. We had conceded the 6th most goals last season in the whole Premier League. Now we're the 12th most goals. So we actually has gone down.
2 goals.
But it's only gone down 2 goals. But as opposed to the whole Premier League, it's gone down half the league essentially. We've gone from 6th to 12th. So that has been a big improvement.
Regardless of all that though, like, it's clear for everyone to see we're conceding way too many chances. We're conceding too much, a really high XG, and we're conceding way too many goals. I mean, last year, what was our worst defence in the Premier League for how long? A long time, right?
Yeah.
And this year is only 2 goals better than that. So, yes, I'm happy with how aggressive we're being. Yes, I'm happy with the attacking numbers in terms of pressing and passes and progressive passes. But it is still a massive worry how open we are in that midfield and in that defence. So that needs to massively improve next season.
Yeah, but as I say, like this season, a lot of teams were very open this season. It wasn't just Tottenham. It was the most open Premier League that we've seen. This is why this is the first, we had 5 teams this season who scored and conceded over 60 goals, where before this season, it only happened 2 times in the whole Premier League history, which goes to show how crazy and very open a lot of these teams were. So we had the 8th best defence. Some of the defences that were better, obviously, you got Fulham, Man United had a better defence, Palace, Everton. But as much as there is improvement to be had, I think if we carry on in this way and then just add a bit more quality and a bit more familiarity with the system, I think it will come. I think the less goals conceded will come, and I think these kind of stats will implement will show you why as well. So this is opposition stats against us this season. So last season, for offsides, we were 16th. Now we were 16th man of offsides. Now we're 2nd. So we're actually catching teams offside a lot more, obviously, because we're playing a lot higher line. Makes sense. But obviously, top was Aston Villa. Last season, we were 16th, so 1 catching teams offside. Passes into the penalty area. Last season, teams ranked 12th. This season, 15th. So only 5 teams concede more passes into the penalty area than us. Passes into the final third. Last season, 5th. This season, 17th. That's a massive difference. So last season, teams were getting into our final third a lot more and were getting a lot more passes. This season, we ranked 17th for opposition passes in the final third. So we actually don't allow that much in the final third.
But the ones that we do allow are very high quality chances where, because of our lower defence last year, it was easier for teams to get to that stage, but harder to teams maybe to penetrate us easier.
But that's where you want it to be less, and hopefully you get them there less, and then you work on getting the quality down as well. And I think with stage 1, we're actually doing quite well. Progressive passes received last season, it was 10th. This season, 8 opposition for 18th. So they're actually receiving a lot less progressive passes than they were last season, the opposition against us. Progressive carries last season 9th, this season bottom. So we're conceding the lowest amount of progressive carries. Touches in the penalty area last season 9th, this season 17th. So again, gone way down. Touches in the attacking third last season 5th, this season 15th. Opposition key passes last season 6th, this season 15th. Opposition through balls, that's actually gone up. Last season 11th, this season 8th. One of the few metrics it has. Opposition shot creating actions, last season 9th, this season 14th. Opposition tackles in our final third, last season 3rd, this season 5th. So we're still quite high for that. We're still losing the ball maybe too much in our own defensive third, which maybe leads to good quality chances. Opposition take-ons last season 13th, this season 9th. So teams are dribbling at us a bit more. And this one's quite interesting. Errors leading to shots last season 3rd, this season 1st. And that's because maybe we commit more risk. What was interesting is last season we were playing it safe and we were playing in a low block and being quite defensive, and yet we were still 3rd for errors. Now, obviously, we're committing more risk and we're playing with a lot more bravery, the errors have gone up, and we're actually top of the league for errors leading to shots. And obviously, that really needs to go down if we're really going to kick on. But I don't think that's an.
Who do you reckon? Who do you reckon
issue.
are the biggest culprits are for errors leading to shots this season?
I would probably the midfield.
Bissouma's definitely up there.
Bissouma's probably up there. Maybe the fullbacks on occasion. I would probably say the midfielders. Maybe Højbjerg, I think, has probably had a lot, even though he's had limited game time. I don't know if I can see if there's a way I can see it all, but I can go into individual play. I can see it all. One second, let me see.
I would assume it will be Bissouma, Højbjerg, and maybe Destiny Udogie as well, who's had quite a few errors leading to shots this season. So I would assume it's going to be those three.
Yeah, I can't see. I wouldn't be able to tell you. But I probably think it's the midfielders. Maybe Romero's had a couple.
I don't remember Romero having too many errors leading to shots this season.
I don't think he's had too many, but maybe he's had a few. Maybe he's had one or two. Maybe it contributes. Obviously, I think the number, obviously we're top of the league. I think the number is like 12, I think it is. So it's not like loads, but it's more than anyone else.
Yeah.
But I think that's a quality issue. But as you can see, I think what we can learn from these opposition stats is we're allowing them a lot less time in our half, a lot less time in our penalty area, a lot less opportunities. And yes, the opportunities they do get tend to be quite good ones, which means that we're still conceding a similar amount of goals. But I do think that the first step in a process is you've gone from being a team which allows the opposition a lot more control, allows them a lot more time in your half and penalty area, and gives them a lot more opportunities that way, allows them to create. So you go from that team to stopping them from having that amount of control, that amount of time in your box and stuff like that. And then the next step is you go from them getting good quality chances to less good quality chances. But the harder step, in my opinion, is to get them having less possession in your half, because that's the hardest thing to do, and we're well on our way to doing that, and we're clearly one of the better teams in the league consistently over all these metrics of doing that. So that's really, really encouraging at the moment, which is why I'm saying these stats tell me that the other stats are going to decrease next season if we can keep that up, in my opinion.
I really hope you're right. Obviously, it goes down to personnel on the pitch as well, and quality, as well as the system being evolved a little bit, and players getting more adept to the system. But I think when you're looking at what we had to do this season and the style of play that we had to completely switch up, it's basically gone from one end of the spectrum to the complete other end of the spectrum. And to do it, I wouldn't say this successfully, but this well, where you see a lot of the metrics, we're the top 4, top 5 team in the Premier League. We did finish 5th in the Premier League as well. I think is a very big positive step forward, and I fully expect it to be taken on to the next level this next season when you bring in players that are more adept to the system as well, that can probably come in and just fit in like a glove, hopefully.
I actually do have the error numbers.
Go on.
So top is Destiny Udogie with 5. Porro is Porro, Bissouma and Højbjerg are joint second.
So the 4 players that we said.
Joint second with 3. Vicario has 2. And then Romero, Decky, Van der Ven, Sarr, Maddison, Johnson, Bentancur and Emerson all have 1.
So Vicario's got 2.
Fullbacks. Vicario has 2, yes, it says here. Yes, 2 leading to shots.
I guess the stat I saw, because I thought the stat was errors leading to shots with Vicario, but it must have been errors leading to goals, the stat I saw, because it says like Spurs in the last 20 years have had at least 1 error per goal for a goalkeeper.
Yeah, leading to a goal, yeah.
And this year was 0 for the first time, I think, in the Premier League maybe, or since the stats started beginning.
Yeah. Well, Vicario, I'm trying to remember when he would have been, but they didn't lead to goals, so they probably don't stick out too much.
Yeah.
He must have just done a poor pass or something like that, which led to a shot. So, Doggy, as much as he's had a lot of praise, needs to cut out the errors.
Yeah, I mean, the glaring one is the West Ham one, and then he made one a few weeks later, didn't he?
Yeah, he made a few. He did do a few when he was passing it back. Yeah, he did another one where he passed it backwards blindly with Wolves. I can't remember.
I can't remember the actual game, but yeah. But look, with Destiny Udogie, what a brilliant season he's had. He was up for Young Player of the Year this year?
Yeah.
Up for Young Player of the Year. And he's 20 years of age. I mean, you expect these kind of mistakes from a 20-year-old. I think he's come on leaps and bounds from the start till the end of the season. So I'm not really worried about Udogie whatsoever.
I'm not worried about him, but 5, you can't carry on with 5 mistakes.
Yeah, of course, but he's 20 years of age.
I'm just saying that needs to go down.
Of course it needs to go down. But yeah, is that all the stats we have?
Yeah, that's it.
So those are the metrics of how we have improved in each and every stat from 22-23 to 23-24. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you believe that Spurs are on the right path now after seeing those stats? Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.